Hi everyone. Have you ever had this experience? So you've been working on this creative coding project for a while. You've been tweaking your code, and anytime you see something interesting, then you save it as an image. So after some time, you get quite a few images like this. Say you've been tweaking random values and also trying out different functions, maybe included some new libraries, etc. And then later, you decided you want to go back to one of the earlier sketch version, but then you don't have the code anymore because you've moved on from this version so much, it's impossible to retrace your steps back and reproduce the same sketch. If you've been programming for a while, then you know we can use something like Git to control different versions. But the problem is when you have so many Git commits, it's very hard to find the code that generated each image. So that's what we're going to look at today, combining Git commits and the image output. You can see my images here. The file name for each represent the Git commit hash. So basically, it's a unique ID that points to a version of your code that generated each image. So it makes it very easy to go back to your earlier sketch versions. So let me show you a quick example before we dive in. The current sketch that I'm running in my browser is this one. And I want to go back to the code that generated this image. And like I said, the image file name is a unique ID from the Git commit. So what I can do is come to the terminal and open up the project folder and just type in the git checkout command using the same ID, or we should call it hash. The hash here is C717E72. Let's see what happens to my browser. So hit enter and it jumps to that code. So it's now running a different code. This code here is something I wrote earlier and it's exactly the version that generated this image. And I can show you just one more. How about we go back to this version? So I can go back to my terminal window, git checkout. This time the hash here is 4924036 and hit enter. And our code has also updated. A quick shout out before we continue. I first learned this technique from using Matt Deloria's Canvas sketch library. It was so useful and changed the way I work with code. I decided to create a separate plugin so that I can use it with P5.js or in vanilla.js sketches as well. So that plugin, how we can use it, is what I want to show you today. I'm going to close this example and open the terminal window on the desktop. To use this plugin, there are a few prerequisites. First one is that you need to have Git installed on your computer. And the second is the plugin that I created only works with Vitejs development server. The template code that I will use today has already been set up with Vitejs bundler, so you don't have to worry about it if you're just following along. So I'm going to clone this repo. This is the address, and I'm going to clone it to a folder, which I will name Git Snapshot. Hit enter, and then we'll cd into that folder. And if you list the files, there are a bunch. And from here on, you can open this folder with your favorite code editor. And I'm inside my code editor, and I will go to the source folder and open up the index.js file. The code here is pretty basic, and I will ask you to bring your own sketch, anything that you've previously made, because this video is not really about creating visuals. So I'm just gonna copy and paste the sketch I made earlier. Once you have the sketch ready, let's open up a new terminal window in the same directory, and we'll first need to install the dependency. So just run npm I, and we'll start the local server by running the command npm run dev. And you can open the address in your browser. I'll just show you very briefly what's going on here. So something very important to reproduce the same sketch if you're using any random values is to fix the seed you're using. So the seed is set to 456, and that's just a random number, and you can try any other value. And then you pass the seed value to random seed and node seed functions. That way, any random values that you're using in your sketch will always produce the same value each time. So if I refresh, it continues to recreate the same result. And see the difference. If I comment out these random seed and noise seed functions, and each time you refresh the page, it'll be completely random. So it's important that we use the fixed seed values. Other than that, there is not much going on. And the next step is to install this plugin. Open up a new terminal window in the same folder and run this command, npm i-D vite-plugin-ssam-git. The option -D represents that this plugin is not really part of our main sketch, but it's only used for development purpose. And hit enter, and now we're ready to use it. Let's come back to our sketch. Right now, I have set the key press. When you press S, it will save the canvas as an image. So let me show you. I click on the browser window and hit S key, then it saves an image. And we'll change that structure. So when we press S key, it will not directly save the image, but we'll create a new git commit. And after we create a commit, then we'll save the image. So I'm going to change this if statement. If import.meta.hot exists, then we'll send a message to our dev server, and that message is ssam::git. This if statement that checks import.meta.hot is to make sure that this line of code only runs in the dev server, not in the production build. And the next bit, import.meta.hot.send, and ssam::git is a special message that our plugin is expecting. So when the plugin receives this message, it will create a new git commit. If you're not familiar with the Git, it may sound a bit confusing, but basically when we commit, it means saving it. So you're saving the current state of all the files within your project. So that's the first step. Then what's the next step? We're going to go up to the setup function, and at the end of the setup function, we'll write another if statement. Again, this bit of code will only run with the dev server, so we need to surround it with if statement like so. And I'm going to paste a couple lines of code. Let's look at it line by line. Once the plugin receives the ssam::git message from our key press, I told you that it will create a new git commit. And when that commit was successful, our plugin will send back a different message to our sketch. And that message is ssam::git-success. So this message is sent only when the commit or saving was successful. And it comes with extra data, and that data has hash. So that's the unique ID that's assigned to each git commit. And we'll use that hash as our image file name. So that's where we make the connection between our code commit and the image export. And the rest 2 lines here is just to log when something happens. As far as what we need to add to our sketch code, that's all there is. But there's one more step left for us to do. So I'm going to create a new file within our project directory. Outside of the source folder, but inside the main project directory, I will create a new file called vite.config.js. The name has to be this one. It's a special file that Vite dev server can understand. So make this file and open it up, and I will paste some code. You don't have to worry too much about what's going on in this file. It is just enabling this ssam-git plugin so we can use it. Once you have this code typed in, you can safely close it. And you may have to restart the dev server after you change the config file. So let me restart the server just to be on the safe side. Quit the server with Ctrl+C and run the same command again, npm run dev. Now when you click the browser and hit the S key, it saves the image just like before, but when you open up the console, you will see that there is new message printed. This message is coming from that ssam-git plugin, and it says 4 files changed, 121 insertion, 4 deletions. So that's how much code has been changed since the last commit. So let's make a few more git commits. Git commit only works when you change the code. So let's just change our code a bit more. I'm going to change the seed Maybe change the number of circles that are being drawn. And I will also change the diameter a bit like this. And let me click the browser and hit S key again. So it makes another commit with a different hash. And I'm going to make just one more commit. This time, I want to draw some rect instead of ellipse. So change the code, maybe change the stroke weight, make it much thicker. And then I want to change the color. So let me just change the seed. I like this one. So I'm going to click the browser again and hit S key and make sure it's committed successfully. So we've made 3 commits and generated 3 image outputs. So let's take a look at them. These are the 3 images that I just generated, but this time we not only generated image outputs, but we've also committed our code to the Git repo. And the file name points to each code commit, the unique hash or ID values. And let's say I want to go back to the code that generated this image, and I know the hash value. So let me come back to my terminal, open up a new window within the same folder, and let's first log it, git log. Git log will show you all the commit history. If I hit enter, you can see quite a few commits. That's strange because I've only committed 3 times. But what about the rest? Well, the rest is coming from the template that I downloaded. When I git clone that template code, it also came with its own git history. So for now, we can just ignore that. What we're interested in here is that the 3 latest commits at the top. You can see this image hash, BF7C798, is the second from the top. And obviously, this hash is much longer. Well, that's the full hash. So you can either use the entire hash or just the first few characters. Well, this time, let me grab the full commit hash. I'm going to hit Q on my keyboard to exit from this log. And I will type in git checkout and then paste the hash that generated this image. And before I hit enter, let me just move this window so you can see. The moment I hit the enter key, you will see the browser result will change and our code will also update to this previous version. So I'm going to hit enter and voila, we see this earlier version. Not only that, when we come back to our code, the code has changed as well. So instead of drawing rect, it is now drawing ellipse just like before. So you can move around as freely as you want. So let me check out another version, this one. The hash here is 5A5D265 and we get this version. And when you see the code, this is the code that generated this image. And if you want to come back to the latest version of your sketch, you can do git checkout main. So the main is the name of the branch that we started with. And you can always check the name of each branch by running this command git branch. Right now, we only have a single branch. This is not a Git tutorial, but I just want to show you one more thing. Let me check out a previous version again. And I run this git branch command one more time. This time, it's a little different. Now we have another branch called head detached at this hash. I'm going to hit Q to exit. This is important because when you check out any of the earlier commits, you will see this message. You can look around, make experimental changes, and even commit them. And you can discard any commits you make in this state without impacting any branches by switching back to a branch. So when you are in this detached head state, you can do whatever you want. You can make changes to your code and save, and it won't still affect your latest code. So this is just experimental state. So if you want to save that, then you need to create a new branch so that you can retain commits you create to that detached head state. You may do so now or later by using this new command git switch -c and a new branch name. So if you do that, git switch c, I'm just going to call it variation 1. And now we have created a new branch and switched to this branch. I'm going to run git branch command again. And now we have main branch and the new one, variation 1. So with a single project directory, with a single structure, you can have lots and lots of variations in it. I mean, this is very, very useful, but also very confusing if you're not familiar with Git system. So I'm going to hit Q and come back to the main branch again. Oops, wrong command, git checkout main. And when I log it, we have all the history intact. So that's great. But like I said, this can be quite confusing, and I have to confess that I've lost some of my sketches in history by using some wrong Git commands in the past. So I just want to warn you about that. So what I usually do when I want to check out some earlier commits, instead of running this command within the main folder, like this one, git snapshot, I will just copy the entire folder and then git checkout. So even if I do something very wrong, I can just delete that copied folder and I will still have my original code untouched. So that's what I like to suggest if you are new to Git. And learning a few Git commands can go a long way. So I also suggest that you maybe watch some other videos, tutorials on Git. And that's all for today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.